Tottenham just drew 2-2 to Wycombe, and we're going to break down exactly what just transpired in this game, man. So before I get into the video, make sure to drop a like and a subscribe, and let's just get right into it because there's a game coming soon for Lewin. I'm just trying to get this video out, so let's get right into it. Okay, so the game definitely wasn't a classic. In fact, it was pretty flat in my opinion, but if you watch closely, there is a few things that stood out, both good and a little bit concerning. So let's break it all down. So let's start with the goals. So Pape Matar Sarr's first goal was him following up off of a rebound and just there, alert, more ready between everyone else, and got the goal. And the second goal was a nice link-up play with Thompson, and this Thompson kid came legit out of nowhere. Tynan Thompson, I think is his name, came on, had a huge impact. This kid, I legit haven't heard of this kid at all before, so he came on, had a good impact, and he linked up really well with Sarr, started a lot of good work in the midfield, linked up with Tynan Thompson. Thompson played it back, and Sarr was able to get the goal off. So excellent stuff from Sarr for that game. So those are the two goals that happened in this match for Spurs. Okay, so I want to talk about one of the biggest concerns I noticed from Thomas Frank's system is the winger situation. So for those of you that don't know, what Thomas Frank typically likes to do is he likes one of his fullbacks to be able to push up and hold with, and he likes one of his wingers to be able to come inside and play more of like an inside forward along the striker. Obviously, they tend to kind of be up here, and then this left winger to be on the touchline. So with Thomas Frank doing this, it creates a little bit of a dilemma. And then you'd also have pretty much form like a back three. So this is typically like how Frank likes to set up on the ball typically. So the only problem with this is that while it allows a player like Odobert, and we saw this a lot last game as well when we had Kudus on the right wing. Kudus was absolutely having a laugh on the right wing, creating a lot of chaos, going inside, going outside, having a whole bunch of fun. The only problem that this creates is that it makes this left side damn near useless. And it's due to the profile. So, as we know, Son Heung-Min is not a touchline winger. I think this is evidently clear, and we saw this a lot under Ange for the past 2 seasons. Whenever Son played as a touchline winger, he was not nearly as effective compared to when he was playing a lot more centrally or cutting inside a lot more, being more of an inside forward. So with this Thomas Frank setup where you have like this back three forming, this pretty much gives all the onus to Odobert to have a whole bunch of fun here on the right-hand side, which he was doing, and I was super happy with Odobert's performance, but it makes Son damn near useless. So what we saw a lot from Son is him being unable to beat his man, even when he would cut inside too. Even when he would cut inside, he just didn't have the ability to be able to make the move happen. And what happened a lot is that this defender, or the fullback, would take the ball from him, or the midfielder would step back and take the ball from him, and there just wasn't really enough for Son to offer. Or what we saw a lot of the times as well is when Son would go outside, and then the fullback would pretty much lock him down, or just be a cross into no man's land, and no one would be able to get there. So I think this tactic for Frank needs to be looked at, because we saw this a lot as well in the last game when we had a Brennan Johnson on the pitch instead of a Kudus that was there before. When we had Johnson on the pitch last game as well in the first half, we noticed a lot that Johnson was doing damn near nothing. He was pretty much doing cardio, and he was being forced on the touchline as well because Porro was sitting back, and you had Uduggy, pretend this is Uduggy, you had Uduggy going forward instead. So this is definitely something for Thomas Frank to look at in terms of how he wants to set up going forward and the exact profiles that he has in the squad, because having Son on the touchline is not playing towards his strengths at all, and I think it does harm to him more than good, in my opinion. But of course, going back to Odobert, so seeing this tactical setup, what this allowed Odobert to do essentially was to be a lot more inside, and Porro was able to feed balls in behind him. You saw Porro always feeding balls in behind to Odobert, threw balls in behind, and then you had Odobert always ending up around these areas where he's able to cross the ball in. And there's unfortunately was never anyone there for these crosses, but you saw a lot of these scenarios where Odobert would be in behind because of Porro's through balls, Or you saw a lot of instances as well where Odobert would be going outside and you have Poro going inside as well. And Odobert would be able to still give through balls either into Poro or crosses in as well. He had a lot of these crosses, and I wish Richarlison or Son was there for these. But you also had Sarr there a lot for these as well, honestly. But Odobert was cooking on that right side, man, and I think Odobert had an amazing game. He didn't have the same impact as Kudus did in terms of like the overall game. Like I wasn't like jaw dropping, but he played really well. And he was by far our most threatening player. And I think the one thing that we noticed as well within this setup is that Sarr was really close to Richarlison, and Sarr was pretty much the number 10 in this system as well. Like Sarr was playing really close to Richarlison. You almost had like not like a front two, but you had Sarr playing really well off Richarlison as well. But unfortunately, what we saw in the last game when it came to Solanke is that Richarlison didn't really get a lot of service. So that's also one thing that we got to figure out for Thomas Frank's system is how are the strikers going to benefit from the system? Because I didn't see Richarlison getting a lot of service in my opinion. Yeah, it wasn't really the best for him, but he did have a couple of chances where like he could have had a shot off, but like he often got the ball with his back facing towards the net. So we'd have to go and do like a pirouette or like a silhouette or a turn to get a shot off. But the defender would read that and block the shot. So I don't think you want a guy like Richarlison or Solanke getting the ball with their back to the net. You really want Richarlison getting the ball facing towards the net and getting those crosses in from, i.e., Wilson Odobert, getting those crosses in to Richarlison and then just tapping that ball in the net and having a shot. So, yeah, there's definitely some things to look at that Thomas Frank needs to do for his system. However, in the second half, this is where Thomas Frank made the adjustment. You had Son coming a lot more centrally, and then you had Davis and Poro coming up a little bit more. It wasn't, this is like the big difference between Frank and Ange. What Frank would do is he would have the fullbacks coming inside here. Okay, the fullbacks would be in these positions. For no damn reason, you'd have obviously the lone six, and you'd have like pretty much just complete chaos up here, and you have Abbott back here. This was what it would look like under Ange, okay? This is what we were looking at. But under a Thomas Frank, what we had was the fullbacks actually coming up forward, but they'd be holding the width instead. So you'd have Ben Davis up here. You'd have Romero, of course. And you have Vuskovic there. So you'd have, and you'd have the double pivot there as well. Started to be playing closer up to the striker. Then you had Son being able to come in a lot more centrally. And this is where Son actually got a lot more benefit because Davis was able to hold the width a lot more. You had Son being able to play a lot more centrally to link up with Sarr, to link up with Richarlison, and we saw a lot more of Son. There was this point in the game where Son was actually in a really good position at the edge of the box. And he was able to get a really good, nice curling shot in. But the goalkeeper made the save, of course. But having Son in a lot more of these central positions is really crucial. And it's good to see that Thomas Frank was coaching proactively to make that change, to notice that, hey, Son was not doing good at the touchline. Let's get him more closer. And he made the risky call of having Davis pushing up as well. It wasn't like anything crazy. Like he wasn't all the way up here a lot, but he was up enough to create enough confusion that would allow Son to go in a lot more centrally. So I think that was a good tactical shift that Thomas Frank made. And I want to go back to Odobert really quickly because I think we have a little bit of a dilemma. So do we consider Odobert as the Kudus backup? If you compare Odobert and Johnson's performances across the two games, for me, Odobert impressed a lot more. That's just my opinion. And I think that's a valid opinion. But how can you justify leaving out Brennan Johnson or almost having Johnson as a third choice option as he was our top goal scorer last season? You know what I mean? Like, it's tough. Like, and of course, there's gonna be a lot of games. There's a lot of minutes to go around. There's gonna be injuries, of course. Like, it's never gonna be perfect. But on the right wing, I saw Kudus have an amazing game. I saw Odobert have a good game, and I saw Johnson do absolutely nothing. So as of right now, it's looking like Johnson could be third choice. But here's the other way that you could also look at it as well. You sell a Richarlison, and then you have Johnson be a backup to Solanke, and you have Johnson play more centrally. That's also another option. So it's tough, and Thomas Frank is going to have to do a lot of mental juggling to figure out what he wants to do. But yeah, it's not an easy decision. I'm so glad I'm not the coach to make that call, man. I'm so glad. Also want to give a huge shout out to George Abbot. George Abbot played really well in my opinion. I think he was a huge presence in that midfield, and he was really able to shut down play a lot. And I counted at least 3 or 4 times where he put in like a good tackle or was able to read the play really well to break up the play and allow Spurs to go on the transition to attack. So, and I think this is exactly why a player like a João Palhinha would be very perfect for Spurs, in the fact that to have that player that can read the play very well to break up the play and then put Spurs right on the front foot immediately to go and attack. So I think that's why we're looking at a João Palhinha, because George Abbot did that role really, really well. So I like that a lot from George Abbot. But the reality is that there's a lot of competition within the midfield squad, so I don't think he's going to get a look in this season. But it's good stuff to see from George Abbot, and he's probably definitely one to look at for the future. I also want to touch on Vuskovic, because I think Vuskovic had a pretty good game again. I think it was a good presence at the defensive position, and I think he did really well. He wanted to always go front foot. He always wanted to attack. He was always looking forward. He also had a shot off that was really crazy, but it's good that he's thinking about always attacking. However, he was kind of culpable for one of the goals where one of Wycombe's players had the ball in this sort of position, and Vuskovic pretty much allowed him to be able to cut the ball back and allow the player who was sitting in the box to have a shot off. To allow the player that was sitting in the box to have a shot off. So that's definitely something I was talking about in my live stream. By the way, I'm live for all Spurs games on YouTube, so check that out. But one thing I said in the stream was Vuskovic pretty much just allowed the Wycombe player to make that pass way too easily back to the player who was, sitting in the box off ready to have a shot. However, with that being said, there should have been definitely someone covering that, whether it's a George Abbot or even Porro picking up that man. But I think Vuskovic allowed that pass, that cut back to get through way too easily. And then obviously that's where Wycombe ended up getting that second goal. So to bring it full circle, I mean, yeah, the right side looks very sharp between Kudus, Porro, Odobert, Spence. Like, the right side has looked really well. But the left side is definitely up for discussion. And we're going to see what happens against Luton in a short couple, about an hour or so here. But I think that Thomas Frank definitely has to look at that and figure out what he wants to do. Whether it's bringing in a player that is able to be a touchline winger, that can be a certified starter, or making some tactical shifts, whatever he wants to do, I'm not sure. But yeah, so 2-2 against Wycombe. It's not going to get anyone excited, but it's preseason. It's not about the results. It's about the systems, player roles, and figuring out what works. And today we saw a few answers and a lot of questions. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. Should Odobert be ahead of Brennan Johnson? It's a shout. I don't know, but Johnson was our top goal scorer, so it's a tough one. And then was Son's performance as well? Was it more tactical? Was it more individual? Like, how can we get the best out of Son? Is there a way that we can revive Son, or is he cooked? And then, does Tynan Thompson also deserve more minutes? This brother came on and did way more than Son offered the entire game. So I haven't heard this kid before, man, but he looks really good. But yeah. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and be sure to drop a like and a subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So drop a like, drop subscribe, and if you guys want to check out the stream against Luton, it's coming up very soon. So stay tuned, guys. Peace out.